The story begins with four friends who decide to go hiking in the mountains. One of them is named Paul. The area they are in is very ancient, and they notice some temples belonging to a local tribe, which they find fascinating. As one of the friends reaches the mountain's peak, she hears a strange voice calling out to Paul, a sound that no one else can hear. Curious, Paul follows the voice but ends up falling into a deep pit. His friends rush over to help him. One of them bravely climbs down with a rope and discovers that the pit leads to a cave. Inside, he finds Paul sitting there, seemingly lost in a trance and chanting mantras. In front of Paul is a giant skeleton, much larger than a normal one, surrounded by smaller skeletons that look like regular people, all bowing before the big one. Confused, Paul's friend approaches him, but Paul warns him to stay back, saying that touching him could be dangerous. Ignoring the warning, his friend lifts Paul onto his shoulder and carries him out. Outside, they see a wooden cabin, and as they bring Paul inside, it starts to snow. Now, the four friends realize they are stuck there. Two of them decide to go out and find food, leaving one friend to stay with Paul, who is still not fully aware of what's happening. Paul's friend noticed he was holding a musical instrument, and she couldn't resist playing it. After some time, when she stepped outside, she spotted a strange black shadow moving in the snow toward her. In a panic, her friend rushed back home to protect herself and quickly shut the door. But the shadow followed and knocked on the door, giving her a huge scare. Eventually, she calmed down and left the situation behind. When her friend returned, Paul's friend told her about the shadow she had seen. They both agreed there was no one outside, but she still felt frightened and confused. On their second day there, everyone went to bed. In the middle of the night, Paul woke up and whispered something in his friend's ear that made him stop. When morning came, they discovered Paul was missing and no one knew where he had gone. Looking outside, they found footprints leading away, so they decided to follow them. They found Paul sitting on the edge of a cliff, still holding the same musical instrument he had been playing. His friend was furious and asked why he had left without telling anyone, expressing how worried they had been. Paul didn't respond. Instead, he began to chant mantras. Suddenly, his friend, the one he had whispered to, lost control and attacked both of her friends, ending their lives. After that, she turned her gaze toward Paul, who was watching her intently. In a shocking turn of events, she ended her own life too. It seemed like Paul was somehow responsible for all three deaths. The story then jumps ahead 23 years to 2018, where we meet a man named James who is grieving the recent loss of his wife and son in a car accident, leaving him all alone. James runs a security shop but feels the weight of his family's absence. Grief clings to him. One day, he visits a hotel with a birthday coupon, even though his birthday was 3 days ago. Surprisingly, the staff accepts it and offers him a free meal. Upon returning home, he meets Amanda, his friend's daughter. They bond over their shared loss. Amanda's father and James's wife and son are gone. Amanda, who sees James as a father figure, confides in him about her heartbreak. She reveals a profound realization: the world is merely a construct of thoughts, and what we focus on manifests in our lives. After sharing this, she leaves. The next morning, Amanda's mother finds her missing. The search leads her to a chilling message on the bathroom mirror: "The empty man made me do it," confused. She calls James and the police. James discovers a pamphlet in Amanda's room with the word Talpa written on it. The following day, he speaks with Amanda's friend, who recalls a recent pool outing where Amanda spoke of the empty man, an ancient legend that exists only in people's minds. Those who believe in him can see and hear him, blurring the lines between reality and thought. Those who trust in the empty man also revere him, believing he grants their desires. They are fully devoted to him. Amanda's friend shares that if you blow into an empty bottle on the bridge while thinking of the empty man, he will enter your life. On the first day, you'll hear his voice. On the second, you'll see him, and by the third, he'll come to you. Following Amanda's suggestion, we blew into the bottle and focused on the empty man. Soon, a strange voice echoed back. The next day, I spotted Amanda whispering to a friend. Afterward, Amanda's friend checked on others but found no one. At one friend's house, James discovered a pamphlet from the same institute he had seen at Amanda's place. He returned to the bridge, found an empty bottle, and blew into it while thinking of the empty man. However, when he left, silence greeted him beneath the bridge. Curious, he crawled through a hole and discovered the lifeless bodies of Amanda's friends, surrounded by countless spirits, all drawn there by Amanda's call. James discovers a chilling message in Amanda's washroom. The empty man made widow confused. He reports it to the police. Soon after, Amanda's friend, who had confided in him, mysteriously dies, leading James to suspect a darker truth behind these events. Determined to uncover the mystery, he researches the institute linked to Amanda and learns it's a cult that believes thoughts can manifest reality. At the institute, James refuses to fill out the required form and instead confronts the leader, who echoes Amanda's words about the empty man, a force that grants wishes to its devoted followers. Ignoring the leader's cryptic insights, James focuses on finding Amanda. He inquires about her but gets no leads. As he searches, he spots a group fixated on a black paper, listening intently to recordings, but their purpose eludes him. He then enters a room where people are calling for the empty man, only to be forcibly removed. James encounters the same boy he had previously questioned about Amanda. The boy reveals that Amanda has been sent to a training camp deep in the jungle. He warns James to steer clear of the locals as they are dangerous. Determined to find Amanda, James ventures into the jungle and discovers a cabin filled with files. In them, he finds Amanda's file, but his own is blank. In another room, he finds video cassettes and plays one, revealing a bizarre experiment on a man, followed by a mystical event that seems to pull someone into him. As night falls, James hears chanting and sees a group gathered around a fire. The flames suddenly shoot up, alarming him. The cultists notice him and advance, forcing James to flee in a car. He rushes to the police, but they dismiss his claims about the cult. Desperate, he turns to Amanda's mother, warning her that Amanda is involved with a cult that worships the empty man. Just then, he receives a mysterious call with a whistle. After hanging up, he warns Amanda's mom of the cult's danger and insists on taking her to safety. They were deeply in love but never found the courage to say it. James left her at a hotel, assuring her it was a safe place. That night, fear jolted him awake as a shadow approached. He lunged at it, but it vanished. The next day, James returned to the institute and spotted the boy who had mentioned Amanda heading off with a group. Curiosity piqued, he followed them to a hospital. Inside, he found them gathered around a man in a coma, lying motionless. Confused, he confronted the boy outside, demanding to know why he had led him to the jungle. The boy explained that his group believed the empty man communicated through the comatose figure. Still baffled, James returned to the institute, searching through files until he stumbled upon file number 14. To his shock, it contained his own information, including a birthday coupon he had used just days before. Stunned, he realized the implications. Determined, he went back to the hospital, scrutinizing the comatose man before approaching the receptionist to inquire about his identity. A woman reveals she doesn't know the man in a coma for 23 years. When James visits him, he finds Amanda, who has been caring for him. Curious, James asks about the man. Amanda explains that the empty man selects a host every 500 years to communicate with us, and this man has been that vessel for the past 23 years. He was possessed long ago, serving as the link to the empty man. James tries to reach out to Amanda's mother, but she doesn't recognize him. It turns out the comatose man is Paul, who we saw hiking with friends at the film's start. Amanda informs James that Paul's body is now frail, and they need a new host for the empty man to connect with his followers. To James's shock, he is chosen as the new vessel. Amanda reveals that the memories James holds are fabricated. His life has been orchestrated for the empty man's purpose. His perceived bond with Amanda's mother is a false creation. The empty man requires a host filled with emotions like fear and shame to thrive, making James the perfect candidate. From this moment, he becomes their new Tulpa, and the torment begins. His thoughts drift back to a moment 23 years ago when Paul faced that skeleton. Now, upon encountering the empty man, he fully possesses James, taking control. This leaves James unconscious. When he awakens, he believes he is no longer human but a Tulpa, the vessel for the empty man. His new form was born just 3 days prior, crafted from memories tied to that skeleton, which was merely a figment. The skeleton implanted a thought, transforming him into a host for the empty man. Once he became the Tulpa, the empty man entered him completely. Now the skeleton communicates with the empty man through James. Determined, James heads to where the skeleton lies in a coma, shoots him and ends it. In that moment, everyone in the hospital bows to James, as the skeleton will now worship the empty man through him. The empty man will eliminate anyone who feared him yet doubted his power, continuing his reign of terror. James's character evolved into a creation of the enders of the empty man, who envisioned him and manifested him into reality. They infused him with memories, shaping him to fit the empty man's needs. As James's physical form weakens, he conjures a host in his mind, bringing it to life through the empty man's influence. Thus his journey continues endlessly, marking the conclusion of the story.